Hello and welcome back. So, we're picking up the following day for me. I took a break from this. And we are again looking at the first mission of the British campaign. I think last time I left you, we'll focus on this guy because we were talking about whether we want him to make that call to pull back or not. I've not been able to spot it, but I believe you used to have command flexibility in your SOPs. I've not been able to spot it, but maybe it's this one. That's acceptable losses, but there used to be, I'm sure, tactical flexibility that you could set and tell a unit how flexible they could be in their decisions, because when we're looking at the big old map, let's turn the hex on and try and take a guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers that drive, 4.5 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and at this level of operations we see very little information. We can see here's a bit of urban environment. It's got 70% cover, 95% concealment. It has effects that, so mobility 80, I think. Are we moving on road there? No, we're not. So running through the actual countryside, that affects your mobility, all these things. But what I suppose I'm getting at is, and what I started talking about and then dropped it in the first one, but it's the difference in these games between tactical and strategic. At this level of strategy or operations, we don't really care what this hex is. We can see, oh, there's some light woods, there's a road, there's a railway. We can see that information. But as the ground commander, effectively this little unit here is handling the tactical side of that. And if we've got command flexibility, they are making the decisions based on what they can see. They can see far more detail. That's like the combat mission level, where you can see, oh, there's a fold in the ground that I can follow there. Oh, I can get through that 500 meters if I stick to the trees. Or that kind of information is handled by this little unit counter instead of us. I suppose I should make a decision though. Am I happy for them to pull back like that? They are currently under fire from 4 Hinds from the looks of things. So 2 units of 2 helicopters. At the moment, they're actually in good concealment cover. Low mobility because they are in the woods. And then in terms of their subunits, so they're basically, and if we look at this as the actual Spartan APC itself, they've got GPMG basically, is it? You know, a 7.62 weapon on the roof that can be used for air defense. 4 GPMGs against 4 Hinds, another 8 Hinds in the area. Do we want to bug it? Probably. So I might just leave that as is and allow them to make that move. I'll check what they're actually doing. So they are silently screening. I think we can probably put them to screen and fight. So they will engage, not just wait to be shot at. They will engage. We'll apply that. Then we'll look at the bigger picture, what else is going on. So if we turn the paths on, this reconnaissance unit was falling back to a sort of block around here, because can we see all? We still have this problem where there is quite a large section land we have no information on. Who else is moving? No one else is currently moving. So we have our reconnaissance units up on the hill doing a fantastic job of spotting the incoming Soviets. This is doing a fire mission which I think is being called in by somebody in this area. We have a few units that probably need resupplying, particularly this one, which I think we already have an order to rest and resupply in position because they've run out of surface-to-air missiles. Does this one need it? So they're still at 86% ammo, 69% ammo. What else have we got going on? These aren't looking too bad, but we can see what's coming over the hill. Quite a substantial amount of armour, engineers, infantry. And we can also see if we hover over it. So the bottom left corner there, you can see the red arrow. You can see these are heading this direction. He's heading northwest, but I imagine that's zigzag hex following along the road. A headquarters unit which is heading northwest. Southwest, and engineers heading northwest, so up this way. But I think the general issue is we're going to have them trundling through here. At some point, we need to make a decision whether we pull back C Squadron and the infantry here. We do, however, I tell you a good way to look at this is probably from the Ops menu. So if we open up the Ops menu and have a look at this, that's our current disposition. So this long line at the back is the reserves of B Squadron. A Squadron is to the north in this sort of blob here. These two blobs here are C Squadron and the infantry. And you've got this big push in the center, which is, you could argue, is just neatly falling into this killing area here if we really want. Problem we do have is the air assault that's happening in the north, and at the moment we don't really have any surface-to-air capability up there. What else is going on? Yeah, that's the general picture. Let's have a look at the intelligence picture as well. Other than that's not really going to tell us much more. That's pretty much the same thing. In terms of where we sit, we're almost in the center of their turn cycle, but if we look over here, they're getting closer, and this is to some extent based on readiness of different units, the amount of orders we're giving out. So our turn cycles are equaling at the moment. They're still offset, so we're taking different things, but we're about 30 minutes each, as you can see here. What else to consider? Did we get sit reps from the ops brief? Have a quick look at that. So now that we've actually got things going, we can see the sit reps. We've lost this unit completely. We've lost this reconnaissance unit completely. Low ammunition state for that surface-to-air missile over there. Low ammunition for this battery here. So this was a fire mission at the back on a HQ unit, I believe. They are now, I think they will have... No, that's the air defense. They will have... put themselves into rest and resupply, basically. So they are not going to fire for the time being until they bring their ammo stocks back up. But I think we have an opportunity here in the depth of the battlefield. So we have plenty of direct fire in this area, I believe, that can handle anything that falls into this pocket. But in depth, we have these units observing all of this coming up behind it, and I think that's an opportunity for them to call fire. So what I'm going to do is change the SOPs for a few of the artillery units and have them directly supporting the reconnaissance units. And I think we'll put the remaining two on, so they are on call when they're rested and resupplied. And I think these guys I'm going to switch over to... Oh no, I didn't need to do that. I needed to do this. So counter battery fire. There we go. So they will return fire. If we spot artillery, they will return fire against that. And these chaps I'm going to get directly supporting. So we have the option to support specific units. So it's the HQ here. And they are going to directly support that unit and its support units here. So they're going to call in fire. We'll do that for each of these, I think. So edit the SOP for this on-call mission. That becomes a direct support to this unit and lower. Apply that. And same for these. So we're going to switch these to this unit and lower. And same for this. And that's something I like. So whilst we can, in this game, make specific decisions, we can hold fire and say, nope, I want to hit the headquarters, for example. I want to hit the engineers. I want to make the calls. With this game, it gives you that flexibility where you can delegate that decision to these, and these, based on what they can see, can call in accurate fire missions against this stuff coming through behind here. So that's what I'm going to do for this this turn, and then what I'll probably do carrying on is talk a little bit more through the tactics versus strategy as we play. We might be able to cover some of it with any luck. We might not. But what I started the video on was that discussion I'd had at the gaming convention, and it was this idea of talking through a tactical game versus a strategic level or operations level game like this. But anyway, I'm going to press play, hope for the best, and see what we can talk about at the same time. So in terms of tactics versus strategy, I suppose the thing we talked about a little bit when I was explaining, when I was explaining combat mission was the size of the map, the scale of everything. And when you're looking at combat mission, you are pretty much in the maximum range of everything. There are some times where you find yourself out of range for things like mortars or whatnot. But generally speaking, not another one. Everything is in range. So everything can be hit, and who hits first tends to win. So that's the first thing we sort of discussed, the difference between everything being in range and some things being in range, which is what you see here. And what you see here can end up as a sort of dance around each other. So you can observe things much further out and make decisions on what to do. But there is limitations to what you can observe what you can shoot at. We've ended up with this sort of kill zone in the centre here. But yeah, that was the first thing we discussed. I suppose the next thing we talked about was target prioritization. So one of the things I raised to him, having played like through the combat mission game, was the problem I was having with... They are having a bad time. The problem I was having with the Chieftain, being unable to destroy T-64s at long distance, at long range. And it's that problem again where everything can shoot at everything, because it's all pretty much in range if it can see it. But the armour on the T-64 was stopping most of the Chieftain rounds. So it was this sort of conversation we had around that. And he said, in his experience, well, he'd be told to prioritise the things he could destroy. So APCs at further range. That kind of idea. And I suppose that even is changing your thoughts on what the point of the tank is. What is the role of the tank on this battlefield? I think it looks cool to have tank-on-tank combats, but there's a reason why tank destroyers and anti-tank guided missiles exist. You know, there's a symmetry between tank-on-tank, and then when you look at anti-tank guided missiles, it's this asymmetry. So with the strikers, with the Milan, I was finding they were doing a lot of the legwork to destroy tanks reliably. They're much lighter armoured vehicles. They are very vulnerable to tanks, but likewise in this sort of asymmetry, the enemy tank is very, very vulnerable to the ATGM. So yeah, that was another thing we looked at. And then when we're up here at this sort of operations and strategic level, there's a greater focus on movement, which includes air, as we've seen. So we've got these helicopters which are scaring the bejesus out of us over on the north. There is still the concerns of bridging. There's the same problems of road movement and concealments, which you can set in your SOPs. There's similar problems with road management. But the distances we're covering, the way we're having the units move is different. So, as an example, you can set your hasty road moves or your deliberate moves or your assaults, all these different options that you have to give your orders to lower level units. And it is all handled by the game, by the AI commander. Right, I've just spotted we're coming up to the 30-minute point, or the 30-minute window for them. So they're going to potentially be making decisions shortly. Who are they firing on? Now that is some reconnaissance fire being called in behind enemy lines, which is good. Because I'd rather engage them before they get to us. You know, one tank knocked out here by somebody kilometers away is much better than somebody having to be in a knife fight. Who's firing there? That's continued bombardment of this tank. The other thing, I suppose, is it will depend on how these are moving. So if these are in fighting formations is one thing. If they are in road march formations, they are far more vulnerable to this type of fire. So it's beneficial to me in that respect as well. But I tell you, one of the interesting things I find from this game really is the different command and control that you can find yourself using here. You do see that to some extent in combat mission. And it's one of the problems I was working my way through on... Oh no. It's one of the problems I was working my way through on the Goodwood scenario, where it is a sort of command by plan, and it's the friction of enemy action coming up against that. We talked a little bit about command by direction, so this is to some extent what we're seeing here. It's us giving direction, and as we're seeing things happen, we're giving direction, saying go do this now, go do that now. Problem that we see in this game is that creates traffic. So there is electronic warfare on this battlefield, and sending those orders creates EW emissions basically, and you have a higher likelihood of being direction found and targeted. That might pop up for us, so we might see a unit identified by so it pops up occasionally and says HQ identified. That can happen in this game, and it can actually say HQ identified, and you can call priority fire on that unit to cause disruption to the actual command structure. And then I suppose to a lesser extent there is command by influence in the game. So this is this whole idea of having a highly trained force with a clear intent statement and allowing them to carry that out as they understand. A little bit more tricky here, but there is to some extent the ability to look at that for maybe the SOPs. Does it work? Probably not quite in the same way. Ouch. But I suppose those are the three ways we look at command. And you get to see more of that here because of this turn cycle. You know, right now we are watching as we're witnessing this, but we're unable to actually influence anything right now. We can't actually change what's going on. They are carrying out our orders as instructed. And this ain't looking bad. This is looking pretty good to be able to destroy things in depth behind enemy lines, not even letting them come to the front line with their full strength. But it is a decision that leaves this platoon facing up against a regiment, effectively. Is that? That's 1 squadron, 2 squadron, 3. Well, 1 company, 2 company, 3 companies up against 1 platoon and... Oh no. And a little striker platoon. Five minutes left in the turn. Whilst this is going on, I might start thinking about what to do with these fellas, and whether it is now a time to pull back a squadron at the least. So this is now become a northwesterly direction of travel. I think we might have lost them. How many is left? We're going to have to, I believe, pull them back. Three minutes remaining. No. This is getting pretty nasty here. Now, do we assume they're actually going this direction? Having thought that they were heading here, was this swinging around this direction, swinging around that direction? Is this their primary intent? And if so, do we feel that we can counter-attack? Because I think the direction of travel does influence flanking fire to some extent. We can hit them in the rear, basically. Last minute. What I'll do once the minute finishes, I'll probably go and look at damage done. Because I was waffling there. And at the same time taking quite a few hits. Oh god. I think that might be them done. Yep, they're done. Now this is probably the SOP standoff range where we've not been specific enough to say don't let them get too close, and if you feel you're getting too close, pull back. Here's the artillery that's being called in by the reconnaissance here. Let's check on units. So 1 down, 2 okay, 1 down, 1 destroyed, so that's our first catastrophic destruction. The other one is recoverable, but this is effectively a single tank unit, as you can see up here. I think we lost, here we go, so 2 destroyed, 2 this unit's gone effectively. We've lost the actual scouts, we've lost 2 of the vehicles have been destroyed outright. 2 of the vehicles are recoverable. And all of these, where were they? Does it show me? Yeah, so they got rolled over by this enemy contact here. So we got 9 tanks roll over them. We've got, what's down here? 5. It says, so this is a bit confusing. So it says identified 5 tanks. There's 1 there. Whether that means we've destroyed 4, I'm not certain. 2 identified here, but then the bottom says 3. So that's a bit confusing. Either way, he's going to have to get out of there. What are these arrows? Who's making these moves? Da, 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 da. Oh, I think that's one to completely rejig. So I would probably do something like that instead. So they can go behind this wood block, through this wood block. Not sure they need that anymore, so we'll move that to there, and it's a direct withdrawal to up here. Risk it or a bit more deliberate is the question. I think the problem there is they are going to be rolled over. So what I might do is switch these round. They had a mission to fire on call, I believe. We're going to switch that out, so they are going to defensively fire to allow them to withdraw. I think this will have to be similar. So this one, we're going to have a sort of a defensive line of fire here. They're only at 50% ammunition though, so that means they've got 57 high explosive rounds. Commit that, and they will not be able to get through any of that, really, will they? So I think you need to Can you change the order? Not sure, but it may be a case that the first two are fine. This one, I think, becomes rest and resupply. So apply that. And then this becomes another barrage. Cancel that. We'll leave it as it is. I think that's okay. Fire on that, fire on that. Rest and resupply, fire on that. That's their order now. And this is starting to look a bit familiar to all that emergency fire being called in on combat mission. Right. Now, one thing we've not looked at is the intelligence picture. So yeah, it is now taking a northwesterly direction. Initially, we thought they were heading into this box here to get smashed to bits. Now looks like it's pulling northwest. And then in terms of kills and losses, let's do this quick. So we are down 23 fallen out, 5 destroyed for 94. Mixture of 37 tanks, nice. 20 mechanized, 7 infantry units, 11 reconnaissance, 4 transport. That might be the engineers. So engineers have trucks. Air defense, we've knocked out a few of them. 7 helos, so another few there. That's not looking bad. Does it have a... but the electronic warfare is increasing. We're now being quite substantially jammed, which takes into account why our turn cycle is increasing, which is far more difficult to transmit. You can see here as well, chance of radio detection, so 10% chance of being direction found and having the HQ pummeled. But that's based on the EW being low. As the EW increases, I think that number may increase likewise. Nothing off map. That was the int brief. We'll look at the ops brief quick, and then we'll probably end it there. Yeah, it's getting a bit mucky on there. The sit reps, I think, the easier one to look at is the PL. So this unit is low ammunition, is the main concern going there. Still got a reasonable amount of ammunition to hand, so that's not looking disastrous. And this is what we're looking like in terms of mission capable units. So we've taken a bit of a hit to recce units. That's probably including the anti-tank strikers. We've taken a fair chunk of tanks fallen out. What was this one? Or maybe they come under self-propelled AT. Potentially, I think they might come under that. And that's a nasty loss, taking all those striker losses. But yeah, that's what we've got going on currently. I'm going to stop the video here and then probably think about what to do. So do we want to counterattack up this way? Do we hold this position here? How do we withdraw a squadron and the remains of the Queen's Dragoon Guards? Yeah, I think those are our main thoughts. Very quickly before we go, though, I will see who's seen what. So these still have, these two are the ones spotting for us on the open plane here, and they're the ones calling in this fire behind lines. They've decided what have they prioritized. So it looks like engineer units, not sure what was here, but they're firing on something there. But yeah, there's a lot of tanks coming our way. Anyway, we will handle that. So I'll see you in the next one.